The Bacon Batter. Chapter 1. The Mighty Mavericks' Misfortune. The sun peeked over the rolling hills of Mudville, casting a golden glow on the Little League baseball diamond. Billy Thompson, his tattered Mudville Mavericks cap pulled low over his eyes, kicked at the dusty ground near home plate. The field was quiet now, but he could still hear the echoes of yesterday's devastating news. "I can't believe Jimmy's moving away," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Jimmy had been their star player, the slugger who could turn a game around with a single swing of his bat. Without him, the Mavericks' dreams of reaching the championship seemed as distant as the cornfields on the horizon. Billy's best friend, Sally, adjusted her thick-rimmed glasses and sighed. "I've run the numbers, Billy. Our chances of making it to the championships have dropped from 67% to a measly 12%. Oh, come on." Tommy, their former second-best hitter, now reluctantly promoted to clean-up, threw his glove on the ground. "We can't give up now. We've worked too hard." Coach Johnson, chewing on his ever-present toothpick, shook his head. "I know you're disappointed, kids, but sometimes that's just how the ball bounces." As the team trudged off the field, their cleats scuffing the well-worn base paths, Billy couldn't shake the feeling of despair. The Mudville Mavericks had been more than just a team. They were a family, and now that family was falling apart. Later that afternoon, Billy found himself in the backfield of his family's farm, tossing a worn baseball against the side of the barn. The repetitive thunk of leather against wood matched the gloomy rhythm of his thoughts. "What are we going to do now?" he wondered aloud, winding up for another throw. Suddenly, a loud squeal pierced the air. The baseball, having ricocheted off the barn at an odd angle, soared over Billy's head and straight towards Big Boy, the Thompsons' prized pig. "Look out, Big Boy!" Billy yelled, but it was too late. To Billy's amazement, Big Boy didn't run. Instead, the rotund pig reared up on his hind legs, opened his mouth wide and caught the baseball mid-flight. "Holy hot dogs!" Billy gasped, his eyes wide as saucers. Big Boy oinked happily, the baseball still clamped between his jaws. Then, with a mighty shake of his head, he sent the ball flying back towards Billy. The ball whizzed past Billy's ear, missing him by inches, and smacked against the barn with a resounding crack. Billy stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. He looked at Big Boy, then at the barn, then back at Big Boy. Slowly, a grin spread across his face, growing wider by the second. "Big Boy," he said, his voice trembling with excitement, "I think you just saved our season." As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Billy's mind raced with possibilities. He paced back and forth, gesticulating wildly as he shared his plan with Big Boy, who listened with what Billy could have sworn was rapt attention. "It's crazy, I know," Billy admitted, pausing to scratch Big Boy behind the ears. "But crazy might be just what the Mudville Mavericks need." Big Boy oinked in agreement, his tail wagging with enthusiasm. As Billy headed back to the house, his steps light with newfound hope, he couldn't help but chuckle. "A pig playing baseball," he mused. "Wait till Coach Johnson hears about this." Little did Billy know, his unconventional idea was about to turn the quiet town of Mudville upside down and change the fate of the mighty Mavericks forever. Chapter 2. Pigskin to Pitcher's Mound. Billy's heart raced as he approached Coach Johnson, who was busy collecting stray baseballs from the field. The coach's eyebrows furrowed at the sight of Billy's excited face. "Coach! Coach! I've got the perfect solution to our team's problem," Billy exclaimed, nearly tripping over his untied shoelaces. Coach Johnson sighed, tucking a baseball under his arm. "Oh yeah, and what might that be, Billy?" "We need a new star player, right? Well, I found one. His name is Big Boy, and he can hit better than anyone I've ever seen." The coach's eyes narrowed. "Big Boy? Never heard of him. He new in town?" Billy shuffled his feet, suddenly feeling nervous. "Well, he's not exactly from town. He's from my family's farm." "Farm?" Coach Johnson's suspicious look deepened. "Billy, what are you getting at?" Taking a deep breath, Billy blurted out, "Big Boy's a pig, but he's amazing, Coach. You should see him hit." The coach's jaw dropped, and he stared at Billy as if the boy had grown a second head. "A pig? Have you lost your marbles, son?" Just then, Tommy and a few other teammates wandered over, curious about the commotion. "What's going on?" Tommy asked, adjusting his cap. Coach Johnson shook his head, chuckling. Seems Billy here thinks we should recruit a pig for our team. The other players burst into laughter, but Billy stood his ground. I'm serious. Just give him a chance. Let Big Boy try out and you'll see. Billy, Coach Johnson said, his voice softening. I appreciate your creativity, but we can't have a pig on our team. It's just not baseball. But Coach, Billy pleaded, isn't baseball about giving everyone a fair shot? Big Boy deserves a chance. The coach paused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. After a moment, he sighed. All right, Billy, you win. Bring your pig to the field tomorrow after school. We'll give him a tryout. Billy's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Really? Oh, thank you, Coach. You won't regret it. As Billy raced off to prepare Big Boy for his big moment, Tommy scowled. A pig? This has got to be a joke, he muttered. The next day, the entire team gathered at the baseball diamond, a mix of curiosity and skepticism on their faces. When Billy arrived with Big Boy in tow, jaws dropped and eyes widened. Holy hot dogs, Tommy whispered. He wasn't kidding. Big Boy oinked happily, his pink snout twitching as he took in the scents of the baseball field. Billy had fashioned a makeshift bat holder out of an old feed sack, which was slung across Big Boy's broad back. Coach Johnson approached, his face a mask of disbelief. All right, Billy, let's see what your friend can do. Billy grinned and grabbed a bat, holding it out for Big Boy. The pig gripped it in his mouth, waddling over to home plate. Billy, Coach Johnson called out. How exactly is he going to... Before he could finish his question, Billy wound up and tossed a gentle pitch towards Big Boy. In a flash, the pig swung the bat, connecting with the ball with a resounding crack. The ball soared through the air, sailing over the outfield fence and disappearing into the distance. The entire team stood in stunned silence, their mouths agape. Did that just happen? Sally whispered, her glasses slipping down her nose in shock. Coach Johnson blinked rapidly, as if trying to clear his vision. I don't believe it. See? I told you, Billy shouted, jumping up and down with excitement. Big Boy's amazing. For the next hour, Big Boy continued to impress, hitting ball after ball out of the park. His powerful swing sent baseballs flying farther than any of the human players could manage. As the tryout came to an end, Coach Johnson gathered the team around him. He looked at each player, his gaze finally settling on Big Boy, who was contentedly munching on some grass near the dugout. Well, team, Coach Johnson said, his voice filled with a mix of resignation and amusement. It looks like we've got ourselves a new player. Most of the team erupted in cheers, rushing to surround Big Boy with pats and words of welcome. Tommy, however, hung back, his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. This is crazy, he muttered. A pig can't play baseball. But as he watched Big Boy oink happily among his new teammates, even Tommy couldn't help but feel a twinge of curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, this strange new player was exactly what the Mudville Mavericks needed. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the baseball diamond, Coach Johnson approached Billy, who was helping Big Boy out of his makeshift batting harness. You know, Billy, the coach said, shaking his head with a smile. In all my years of baseball, I never thought I'd say this, but welcome to the team, Big Boy. Big Boy let out a joyful oink, as if he understood every word. And as the team left the field that evening, there was a new spring in their step and a glimmer of hope in their eyes. The Mudville Mavericks were about to embark on their most unusual season yet, with a pig as their star player. Billy couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Chapter 3. Hooves on Home Base. The sun peeked over the rolling hills of Mudville as Billy and Big Boy trotted onto the baseball field. It was the day of Big Boy's first official practice with the Mudville Mavericks, and the air buzzed with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. All right, team, Coach Johnson called out, his gruff voice tinged with a hint of nervousness. Today, we're going to see how our new, player fits in. Big Boy oinked happily, his curly tail wagging as he surveyed the field. The other players giggled and whispered among themselves, their eyes wide with disbelief. First things first, Coach Johnson said, scratching his head. We need to figure out how to get a bat in those hooves. Billy's face lit up. I've got an idea, Coach. He rummaged through his backpack and pulled out an oversized oven mitt. "We can put this on Big Boy's hoof. It should help him grip the bat." With some creative maneuvering and a lot of laughter, they managed to fit the oven mitt onto Big Boy's right front hoof. The pig snorted with delight as he took his first swing, sending the ball soaring over the fence. "Well, I'll be," Coach Johnson muttered, his toothpick nearly falling from his mouth. As practice continued, it became clear that while Big Boy was a natural hitter, other aspects of the game posed some challenges. Fielding was particularly tricky, as baseballs had a tendency to bounce off his rotund body. "Maybe we can use that to our advantage," Sally piped up, her strategic mind whirring. "If we position Big Boy just right, he could deflect the ball to other fielders." While most of the team embraced the challenge of incorporating Big Boy into their plays, Tommy stood off to the side, his arms crossed and a scowl etched on his face. As Big Boy sent another ball flying over the fence, Tommy's frown deepened. "This is ridiculous," he grumbled to no one in particular. "Since when do pigs play baseball?" The day of Big Boy's first game arrived, and the stands were packed with curious spectators. News of the baseball-playing pig had spread through Mudville like wildfire, and everyone wanted to see if the rumors were true. As Big Boy waddled up to the plate, oven mitt securely in place, the crowd held its collective breath. The opposing team's pitcher looked bewildered, unsure of how to approach this unusual batter. The first pitch came in fast and low. Big Boy's eyes narrowed in concentration, his snout twitching. With a mighty swing, he connected with the ball, sending it rocketing over the center field fence. The crowd erupted in cheers and oinks, courtesy of some enthusiastic farmers in the stands. Big Boy trotted around the bases, his hooves clip-clopping on the dirt. "That's my boy!" Billy shouted, jumping up and down with excitement. As the game progressed, Big Boy continued to impress, batting in run after run. The Mudville Mavericks clinched their first victory of the season, and the town buzzed with excitement. "Did you see that? A pig, playing baseball. And he's good." The local newspaper ran a front-page story with the headline, "Pork Chop at the Plate, Mudville's new star player." But not everyone was thrilled with the team's new direction. Tommy sulked in the dugout, watching as his teammates celebrated with Big Boy. "Just wait," he muttered under his breath. "This pig won't be the star for long. I'll make sure of that." As the team packed up their gear, Coach Johnson pulled Billy aside. "I've got to hand it to you, kid," he said, a rare smile creeping across his face. "That pig of yours might just be what this team needed." Billy beamed with pride, watching as Big Boy happily rolled in the dirt of the baseball diamond, squealing with joy. Little did they know, their piggy problems were only just beginning. As Big Boy's fame grew, so too would the challenges they'd face, both on and off the field. But for now, as the sun set over Mudville, casting long shadows across the baseball field, the future looked bright for the Mudville Mavericks and their unlikely new star. Chapter 4. Foul Play and Fair Game. The Mudville Mavericks were on fire. With Big Boy at bat, they were knocking it out of the park, literally. The pig's powerful swings sent baseballs soaring over fences, sometimes landing in Mrs. Johnson's prize petunias 2 blocks away. "Another home run!" Billy cheered, his Mavericks cap nearly flying off as he jumped up and down. "Big Boy, you're amazing!" Big Boy responded with a happy oink, trotting around the bases with his curly tail swishing in the breeze. The crowd went wild, their cheers echoing across the little league field. But not everyone was thrilled with the Mavericks' new star player. Tommy slouched in the dugout, his face as sour as week-old milk. "Big deal," he muttered. "I could hit home runs too if I weighed 300 pounds. Sally overheard him and frowned. "Come on, Tommy. Big Boy's part of our team now. We should be happy we're winning." Tommy just rolled his eyes and turned away. As the Mavericks' winning streak continued, word spread beyond Mudville. Soon people from neighbouring towns were flocking to their games, eager to see the baseball-playing pig for themselves. "I can't believe it," Coach Johnson said, scratching his head as he watched the bleachers fill up. "We've never had this many folks at our games before." But with the attention came trouble. After their latest victory, a man in a crisp suit approached the field, his thin-rimmed glasses perched on the end of his nose. "I'm Mr. Snout, the league official," he announced, sniffing disapprovingly. "I'm here to investigate the unusual situation with your team." Billy's stomach dropped faster than a popfly. "But sir," he said, "there's no rule that says a pig can't play baseball." Mr. Snout's nose wrinkled. Perhaps not specifically, but there are rules about proper equipment and uniform standards, and I don't recall any provisions for Hooves. As Mr. Snout inspected Big Boy's custom-made uniform and oversized bat, the rest of the team huddled together. "They can't kick Big Boy off the team," Sally whispered fiercely. "It's not fair." "Yeah," another teammate chimed in. "He's the best player we've ever had." Billy nodded, determination glinting in his eyes. "Don't worry, guys. We'll figure something out. Big Boy's one of us now, and we stick together." Meanwhile, Tommy saw his chance. While everyone was distracted by Mr. Snout, he snuck over to the concession stand. "1 hot dog, please," he said with a mischievous grin. "Extra smelly." As the team defended Big Boy to Mr. Snout, Tommy waved the hot dog in the air, letting its tantalizing aroma waft towards the pig. Big Boy's snout twitched, and he glanced longingly at the tasty treat. Now, Coach Johnson said, noticing Big Boy's distraction. "Remember what we talked about, Big Boy. No hot dogs before games." Big Boy let out a sad oink, but turned away from the temptation. Tommy scowled, his plan foiled for now. Mr. Snout finished his inspection, looking thoroughly perplexed. "Well," he said, adjusting his glasses, "I suppose there's nothing explicitly against the rules, but I'll be watching closely." As Mr. Snout left, the team let out a collective sigh of relief. They had won this battle, but Billy knew the war wasn't over. Between Tommy's jealousy, league officials' scrutiny, and Big Boy's growing fame, the road to the championship was going to be bumpier than a baseball diamond after a rainstorm. But as he looked at his teammates, human and porcine alike, Billy felt a swell of pride. They were the Mudville Mavericks, and together they could overcome anything. Even if it meant teaching a pig to resist the irresistible lure of ballpark hot dogs. "All right, team," Coach Johnson called, clapping his hands. "Back to practice. We've got a big game coming up, and we need to be ready for anything." As the Mavericks took the field, Big Boy oinked happily, ready to show the world that when it came to baseball, he was no ordinary pig. He was a Mudville Maverick, through and through. Chapter 5. Striking Out Jealousy. The sun peeked over the cornfields, painting Mudville in a warm golden glow. It was the day of the crucial playoff game, and excitement crackled through the air like static electricity. Billy chewed nervously on the brim of his cap as he walked to the baseball field, his mind racing with thoughts of the upcoming game. "Today's the day, Big Boy," Billy called out as he passed the pig pen. But to his surprise, there was no answering oink. Big Boy? Meanwhile, across town, Tommy was putting the final touches on his plan. His fingers trembled as he laid out a trail of juicy hot dogs leading from Big Boy's pen to the woods behind the baseball field. "This'll teach them," he muttered, his voice lacking its usual confidence. As game time approached, panic set in. Big Boy was nowhere to be found. The team huddled around Coach Johnson, worry etched on their faces. "All right, team," Coach Johnson said, his gruff voice tinged with concern. "We've got a big problem, but we're the Mudville Mavericks. We don't give up. Let's split up and find our star hitter." The search was on. Billy and Sally raced through the streets of Mudville, calling Big Boy's name. Coach Johnson and the rest of the team scoured the farm fields. Even Mr. Snout, despite his misgivings about a pig playing baseball, joined the search, his nose wrinkling with worry. As the others searched, Big Boy faced his greatest challenge yet. He had followed the irresistible scent of hot dogs, his snout twitching with anticipation. But as he reached the end of the trail, he found himself deep in the woods, far from the baseball field. Big Boy's stomach rumbled loudly, but something else rumbled too. A memory of the cheers, the excitement, the feeling of being part of a team. He thought of Billy's beaming face and the friendships he'd made. With a determined oink, Big Boy turned away from the tempting hot dogs. Just then, Tommy burst through the bushes, his face a mix of guilt and relief. "Big Boy, I'm sorry, I was jealous, but this isn't right. The team needs you." Big Boy cocked his head, regarding Tommy with his intelligent eyes. Then, with a friendly oink, he nudged Tommy's hand. Together, they raced back to the field. They arrived just as the umpire was about to call the game. The crowd erupted in cheers as Big Boy trotted to home plate, Tommy by his side. "Where have you been?" Billy exclaimed, hugging his porcine friend. Tommy stepped forward, his eyes downcast. "It was my fault. I tried to sabotage Big Boy because I was jealous, but I was wrong. He's a true maverick, and so much more than just a good player. Coach Johnson's stern expression softened. Well, Tommy, admitting your mistake takes guts. Now let's play some baseball. The game was intense, with both teams trading the lead. In the bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, the Mavericks were down by 3. Big Boy stepped up to the plate, his bat looking like a toothpick in his hooves. The pitcher wound up, threw a fastball, and crack! Big Boy's hit sent the ball soaring over the fence like a startled chicken taking flight. A grand slam. The crowd went wild as Big Boy trotted around the bases, oinking triumphantly. His teammates mobbed him at home plate, Tommy leading the cheers. As the celebration died down, Billy noticed a half-eaten hot dog on the ground near the dugout. He looked at Big Boy, who gave a sheepish oink. Billy laughed, patting his friend's side. I guess even heroes need a little fuel, huh, Big Boy? The sun set on Mudville, casting long shadows across the field. But for the Mudville Mavericks, the future had never looked brighter. They had won the game, but more importantly, they had learned the true meaning of teamwork, forgiveness, and believing in each other, no matter how different they might be. Chapter 6. Home Run to the Heart. As the dust settled on the field after Big Boy's game-winning home run, Tommy stood frozen, his mouth hanging open like a barn door in a strong wind. He watched as his teammates swarmed around the portly pig, their cheers echoing across the diamond. I can't believe it, Tommy muttered, shaking his head. He really did it. Billy noticed Tommy standing alone and jogged over, his face flushed with excitement. Tommy, did you see that? Big Boy was amazing. Tommy nodded slowly, a mix of emotions swirling in his stomach like a tornado in a trailer park. Yeah, I saw. It was pretty incredible. Billy's grin faltered as he noticed the conflicted look on Tommy's face. Are you okay? Tommy took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping. I've been a real jerk, haven't I? Well, Billy started, but Tommy cut him off. No, it's true. I was so jealous of Big Boy that I couldn't see how much he was helping the team. I'm sorry, Billy. Billy's smile returned, brighter than ever. It's okay, Tommy. We all make mistakes. What matters is that you realized it. Together they walked over to where Big Boy was oinking happily, surrounded by their cheering teammates. Tommy cleared his throat nervously. Hey, Big Boy, he said, his voice cracking slightly. I wanted to say I'm sorry for how I've been acting. You're a great player, and I'm glad you're on our team. Big Boy looked at Tommy with his intelligent eyes, then let out a friendly oink and nuzzled Tommy's hand. The team erupted in laughter and cheers, patting Tommy on the back. As word of Big Boy's incredible performance spread, the entire town of Mudville seemed to come alive. People poured out of their houses and shops, heading to the baseball field to catch a glimpse of their porcine hero. Mr. Snout, the league official, pushed his way through the crowd, his face a mix of disbelief and begrudging admiration. Well, I'll be, he muttered, adjusting his glasses. I never thought I'd see the day when a pig would save baseball in Mudville. Coach Johnson grinned, slapping Mr. Snout on the back. Sometimes, Snout, you've got to think outside the pig pen. As the excitement died down, reality set in. The Mudville Mavericks were headed to the championship game, and they'd be facing their toughest opponent yet. All right, team, Coach Johnson called out, gathering the players around. We've got a big game coming up. The Hillsborough Hurricanes are no joke, and their star pitcher, the Barnyard Bullet, has an arm like a catapult. Sally, ever the strategist, piped up. I've been studying their game films, Coach. The Bullet's fastball is faster than a greased pig at a county fair, but his curveball is as wobbly as a newborn calf. The team spent the next week practicing harder than ever. Big Boy worked on his swing, Tommy helped him improve his running, or trotting between bases, and Billy made sure to keep any stray hot dogs far away from the determined pig. Finally, the day of the championship arrived. The Mudville baseball field was packed tighter than a tin of sardines, with fans spilling out onto the grass beyond the bleachers. As the Mavericks took the field for warm-ups, a hush fell over the crowd. Billy looked around at his teammates, noting the nervous energy that crackled between them like static electricity. Even Big Boy seemed subdued, his usual excited oinks replaced by quiet grunts. All right, Mavericks, Coach Johnson said, gathering them for a final pep talk. I know you're nervous. Heck, I'm as jumpy as a flea on a hot griddle. But remember this, you've worked hard, you've played fair, and you've got something no other team has. He paused, looking each player in the eye before his gaze settled on Big Boy. You've got heart, pig heart, human heart. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you play together, support each other, and give it your all. Now, let's show 'em what the Mudville Mavericks are made of. The team cheered, their spirits lifted by Coach's words. As they took their positions, Billy caught Tommy's eye and grinned. Tommy smiled back and gave a thumbs up. The umpire's voice rang out across the field. Play ball! And with that, the championship game began. It was a nail-biter from the start, with both teams trading runs like kids trading baseball cards. The barnyard bullet lived up to his name, his fastballs whizzing past the Mavericks' bats like angry hornets. But the Mavericks held their own, with Big Boy smacking solid hits whenever he came up to bat. The innings flew by, and as the sun began to dip towards the horizon, the score remained tied. As the bottom of the 9th inning approached, the tension in the air was thicker than pea soup. The Mudville Mavericks had one last chance to clinch the championship, and every eye in the stadium was glued to the field, waiting to see if their unlikely pig hero could bring home one final victory. Chapter 7. When Pigs Fly. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the Mudville baseball field in a warm orange glow. The championship game had been a nail-biter from the start, with both teams trading the lead back and forth. Now, in the bottom of the 9th inning, the Mudville Mavericks found themselves trailing by 3 runs. Coach Johnson paced nervously, his lucky toothpick dancing from one side of his mouth to the other. "All right, team," he called out, his gruff voice tinged with hope. "We're down, but we're not out. Let's show 'em what we're made of." Billy chewed on the brim of his cap, his eyes darting between his teammates. Tommy stepped up to the plate first, his face a mask of determination. With a crack of the bat, he sent the ball sailing into left field for a single. "Way to go, Tommy!" Sally cheered from the dugout, her ponytail bouncing as she jumped up and down. Next up was Billy. He took a deep breath, remembering all the practice sessions with Big Boy. The pitch came in fast, but Billy was ready. He connected, and the ball zoomed past the shortstop, 2 on base. Sally's turn came, and she approached the plate with her game face on. The barnyard bullet, the opposing team's star pitcher, glared at her from the mound. Sally didn't flinch. She waited for her pitch and then, crack! The ball soared over the second baseman's head, bases loaded. A hush fell over the crowd as Big Boy waddled up to the plate. This was it, the moment of truth. The bases were loaded, 2 outs, and the Mavericks were still down by 3. Big Boy oinked nervously, his ears twitching as he gripped the bat with his hooves. From the bleachers, the smell of hot dogs wafted towards him. His snout twitched, and for a moment his concentration wavered. "Focus, Big Boy," Billy called out. "Remember why we're here?" The barnyard bullet wound up for the pitch, his face a mask of concentration. The ball left his hand like a rocket, heading straight for Big Boy. Time seemed to slow down. Big Boy's eyes narrowed, tracking the ball's path. With a grunt of effort, he swung his bat. Thwack! The sound echoed across the field. Every head turned to follow the ball as it soared high into the air, sailing over the outfield fence. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, the crowd erupted into cheers. It's a grand slam!" the announcer shouted, his voice cracking with excitement. "Big Boy's done it! The Mudville Mavericks win the championship!" Big Boy trotted around the bases, his curly tail wagging with joy. His teammates poured out of the dugout, jumping and cheering. As he crossed home plate, Billy tackled him in a big hug, soon joined by Tommy, Sally, and the rest of the team. Coach Johnson stood at the edge of the celebration, a rare smile breaking through his gruff exterior. "Well, I'll be," he muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. "That'll do, Pig. That'll do." As the team hoisted Big Boy onto their shoulders, chanting his name, Mr. Snout approached Coach Johnson. The league official's usual frown was nowhere to be seen. "I must admit," Mr. Snout said, adjusting his glasses, "I had my doubts about this unconventional player of yours, but I can't argue with results. Congratulations, Coach. Your team has certainly made Mudville proud." Coach Johnson nodded, still grinning. "Thank you, Mr. Snout. I reckon we all learned something today about giving everyone a fair chance." As the sun set on Mudville's baseball field, the air was filled with laughter, cheers, and the occasional happy oink. The Mudville Mavericks had done the impossible. They'd won the championship with a pig as their star player. Billy looked around at his celebrating teammates, at Big Boy's triumphant smile, and at the joyful faces in the crowd. He realized that they had achieved something even greater than winning a baseball game. They had brought their town together and shown everyone that with teamwork, acceptance, and a little bit of creativity, anything was possible. Even pigs could fly, or at least hit championship-winning grand slams. Chapter 8. Beacon of Hope. The sun rose over Mudville, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. But even before the roosters could crow, the town was already buzzing with excitement. Today was no ordinary day. It was the day Mudville would celebrate its most unlikely hero, Big Boy, the baseball-playing pig. Billy woke up early, his Mudville Mavericks cap already on his head. He raced downstairs, nearly tripping over his untied shoelaces in his rush to get to the town square. "Whoa there, slugger," his mum called after him. "The celebration isn't going anywhere." But Billy couldn't wait. As he rounded the corner to Main Street, his jaw dropped. The entire town had transformed overnight. Red, white, and blue streamers hung from every lamppost. Banners proclaiming Mudville Mavericks champions stretched across the street. And right in the centre of it all stood a giant papier-mâché statue of Big Boy, mid-swing. "Golly," Billy whispered, his eyes wide as saucers. As the morning wore on, more and more people filled the streets. Billy spotted his teammates. There was Tommy, looking happier than he'd been in weeks, and Sally, her glasses slightly askew as she animatedly explained some complex baseball strategy to anyone who would listen. Suddenly a hush fell over the crowd. Billy turned to see Mr. Snout, the league official, climbing onto the makeshift stage. Billy held his breath. Even after their championship win, would Mr. Snout try to disqualify Big Boy? Mr. Snout cleared his throat, his moustache twitching nervously. "Citizens of Mudville," he began, his voice carrying across the square. "I've been a baseball official for 30 years and I thought I'd seen it all. But never in all my years have I seen a player quite like Big Boy." He paused, and Billy's heart raced. Then, to everyone's surprise, Mr. Snout's serious expression melted into a warm smile. "What I've learned from Big Boy and the Mudville Mavericks is that baseball isn't just about rules and regulations. It's about heart, determination, and the joy of the game, and nobody embodies that spirit more than our champion pig." The crowd erupted in cheers. Billy whooped so loud he thought his voice might give out. As the applause died down, Coach Johnson took the stage. His gruff exterior had softened, and he actually looked like he might cry. "I've coached a lot of teams," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "but none like this one. These kids, and this pig, taught me that sometimes the most extraordinary players come in the most ordinary packages." One by one, the team members were called up to receive their championship medals. When it was Big Boy's turn, he trotted up proudly, his curly tail swishing with excitement. Mayor Piggins carefully draped the oversized medal around Big Boy's neck, and the pig let out a joyful oink that had everyone laughing. As the ceremony wound down, the smell of barbecue began to waft through the air. Tables laden with food appeared, and the celebration kicked into high gear. There were hot dogs, which Big Boy eyed longingly, hamburgers, and piles of corn on the cob. But at the centre of the main table was a massive salad, piled high with fresh vegetables from local farms, Big Boy's special meal. As Billy watched Big Boy dive face first into his celebratory salad, he couldn't help but reflect on their incredible journey. They had faced doubt, jealousy, and seemingly insurmountable odds, but through it all, they had stuck together, believed in each other, and emerged victorious. "Hey, Billy," Tommy called out, waving a baseball. "Want to play catch?" Billy grinned. "Sure thing. Hey, Big Boy, want to join us after you finish your salad?" Big Boy looked up, his snout covered in lettuce, and gave an enthusiastic oink. As Billy jogged over to Tommy, he couldn't help but wonder what new adventures awaited Big Boy and the Mudville Mavericks. After all, they had already proved that with a little creativity, a lot of heart, and a pig who could hit home runs, anything was possible. And so, as the sun began to set on Mudville's day of celebration, the air was filled with laughter, the crack of baseball bats, and the unmistakable, joyful oinking of a pig who had become so much more than just a farm animal. He was a teammate, a champion, and a beacon of hope for dreamers everywhere. The end? Or is it just the beginning of Big Boy's next big adventure?